Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues. Merry Christmas. It is Christmas Day 2017, and I'm here talking at you live about the 2017 Christmas special of Doctor Who, the final story for Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor, ushering in Jodie Whittaker's 13th. And it was a spectacular showing. My sister and I watched it, and we laughed all throughout. We were brought to tears several times. It was just a spectacular swan song for Peter Capaldi. His performance all throughout was riveting and compelling and moving, as is the case with every single one of his performances as the 12th Doctor since his debut. And we have the added sort of pleasure of David Bradley, playing the first Doctor as stemming off from William Hartnell and everything. And I love how they did the wraparound, ushering us into the episode previously on Doctor Who, and we're calling back to the 10th planet, and we sort of zoom in on the first Doctor, William Hartnell's first Doctor, and it transitions into David Bradley, and then we have him for the rest of the episode, brilliantly portrayed by David Bradley. And then when it comes time for him to exit the story once again, when he is finally sort of, moved himself about mentally, readied himself to welcome that oncoming regeneration, it transitions back to Hartnell and to Patrick Troughton subsequently. I really loved the creative sort of way they did that, the way they weaved in and out to bring the first Doctor to life in the form of David Bradley. It was just spectacular, and I like a lot of the internal to Doctor Who lore, the history of the 12th Doctor, why he is so reluctant to want to regenerate, and all the losses and everything he's experienced, all the sadness he's experienced, losing companion after companion, all the innocents that have died at the hands of his enemies and everything like that, and even at his own hands, calling back to, of course, the War Doctor and such like that with Gallifrey. Even though much of that was righted, it still happened in his mind, that kind of thing. So he's plagued by the shadows of his past. And so there's this great flair and commentary to the idea that, these glass beings, I forget if they were even named in the episode, but, where we are, reunited with Bill Potts, which I thought was a nice sort of way to do that. Like, it is her, but it isn't her, but it is her, and that's constantly being drawn up in the dialogue, in the 12th Doctor's reactions to her. Well, if you really were Bill Potts, Pearl Mackie just delivers once again. It was really nice seeing her again. We also get Nordal toward the end. I loved Matt Lucas's coming back, and now the rest of me is glass, like my nipples. My sister snorted out loud at that, and it got me cracking up as well. And that's a lot of what I love, the humor of this episode. As emotional as it could have been, it wasn't as emotionally rocking as I feared it would be. I did get brought to tears, and I did find myself sobbing with the return of a previous companion toward the end of the piece. But for the most part, I was largely intrigued, and it's like the Doctor Who fanboy in me of the classic series and the Hartnell era and everything like that, and getting to fit in, Rusty the Dalek, and all that kind of stuff. Like, these were twists and turns that were largely unexpected to me, and I really just found myself riveted. I didn't know what in the hell was going to happen. And then you find out these glass beings, they're not really enemies. They're actually, they've been inspired by the Doctor to collect the memories and let the people, just before they die, have one last chance to reconnect with their lives so that they can die in peace. They can be at peace right before their final moment. And it's just, I loved all of that. It sort of subverted expectations, and not that I really even had any. I didn't know exactly how this was going to go at all. But that's what kept me on the edge of my seat. I'm just watching and trying to figure out how this is going to play out and everything like that. The banter and interaction between, Capaldi's 12th and Bradley's first Doctor was some of the best stuff in the episode, and I loved the sort of unchecked 60s era mentality, misogyny kind of thing pouring out of the first Doctor, and the 12th Doctor's constantly like, no, stop, you gotta stop that. Everybody for the rest of your life is going to tell you you can't do that anymore. And I loved it because, of course, what do we have by the end of the episode? We have the ushering in of the first female incarnation of the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker's 13th, and it's like, it's perfect. It was perfectly written commentary all throughout the episode. Get yourself out of the gutter. Get your mentality out of the past, out of the archaic past. We're moving forward evermore. You know, I mean, we're always moving and evolving and growing, and the world is becoming more and more accepting to different cultures, different races. It's a constant uphill battle, but it's a battle that is time and time again won. You know, the equality of man and womankind. And I was just, you know, it was hard to watch this and not be shades of both emotional that this was Peter Capaldi's final adventure, you know, his final story, but also being very, very much excited because I knew that at some point, once this story came to its conclusion, we would get the first glimpse of the 13th Doctor. And I love, she sees her reflection and she just says, brilliant. And then, of course, all hell breaks loose. All of the 11th hour, you know, with the 11th Doctor, his debut, only he didn't go flying out of his TARDIS while it was in midair, exploding from within, internally. And I made a crack to my sister when the episode was over, like, oh, great, we just ushered in the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker's first female iteration of the Doctor, and she falls out of the TARDIS. She's going to smack down on the ground and regenerate all over again. Yeah. I mean, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully we get a nice long series with Jodie Whittaker. I can't wait to see what she brings to this character and to the table in her performances and everything like that. The humor, the drama, the emotions, everything. I'm so on board. I cannot wait. But this, you know, it was a pitch perfect way to sort of, you know, give the 12th Doctor this grand soliloquy. You know, a lot of the time he spent in this episode with anyone was with himself. His former incarnation, his first incarnation. And they're both very much mulling over and dealing with the fears, the anxieties, the reluctance to regenerate, not knowing what's coming next. You know, in the case of the first Doctor, it would be his first time experiencing this. What do I have ahead of me? Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for change. As much of the audience seems to equate with their reluctance to accept Jodie Whittaker's 13th incarnation. And here we have the 12th Doctor who's he's been through so much, going all the way back to that first incarnation. And much of us have been along with him for segments of that journey. There's very few of us left in the world who have been there since the beginning. Literally, in the real world, who go as far back as watching original Hartnell episodes. There's few and far between left anymore. And that's astonishing, and it's sad because, you know, immediately after the show debuted in America in 2005 with Chris Eccleston and Billy Piper, I had recollected memories, vague memories from my past of familiarity with it. And I immediately went out to Best Buy, my local Best Buy, and I saw they had Doctor Who The Beginning box set, and I snatched it up. And as soon as the opening music came on, dun 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 dun, you know, my sis and I, who I had gotten her thoroughly, you know, like into Doctor Who. Like she came in, she had eventually warmed to Star Trek and Star Wars and things like that. But she's like, oh, my brother's watching another geeky show. What is this? And then by the end of like the whole first series with Eccleston and Piper, she was thoroughly engaged. She was thoroughly on board. And so when that had wrapped and I went and I got that Doctor Who The Beginning box set, and we hear that music, we both decided to watch it together. We both looked at each other, smiled ear to ear, and we're like, oh my God, there's so much rich history to this series. There are so many different Doctors. They all bring something spectacular to the table. And that's exactly what we got in this swan song for the 12th Doctor, for Peter Capaldi, again, whose performance was just grand and spectacular. I keep using that word, but it is the truth. Coinciding with the performance of David Bradley, having, you know, the guest starring roles of you know, Pearl Mackey's Bill, and as I say, Matt Lucas's Nardole, and Mark Gatiss. I can't even, you know, remotely try to forget Mark Gatiss because he answered to, you know, sort of a classical sensation when I think of Doctor Who. He very much adhered to the classic series estimation I have of Doctor Who. He was very much a classical character as this World War I soldier who was taken out of time And much as I had speculated a long time ago, you know, I think a lot of people did. He would end up being, it would be revealed that he was Alistair Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart's father or grandfather, depending. I think more likely father. But that is his family lineage, and it was pitch perfect. I loved it. His performance, his being a fish out of water, not really making sense of any of it. Pitch perfect. You know. And as I say, toward the end, you had that, the other leg drop, and the final gift from Bill, from the legitimate Bill, to the Doctor, was reuniting him with this apparition, these memories of Clara Oswald. Seeing Jenna, seeing Clara, I know a lot of people can take or leave her character, but I loved her, I adored her, and seeing her in that moment, especially calling the Doctor on his reluctance, it melted my heart. It brought me to tears. That's the moment I sobbed. And to know two things of great importance that come out of that moment are, one, all of the Doctor's memories that had been closed off by Clara herself had returned. He now would remember her forevermore. All over again. But also taking to mind what these glass beings are, what they're representative of. They take the final memories of the last moments of someone's life and recreate an essence of them, of their being. That means Clara has finally succumbed. She finally has died, well and truly. And at least for my part, it was bittersweet and emotionally rocking, and because it's truly the end of an era. It's not just the end of 12. It's not just the end of Peter Capaldi's tenure. It's the end of Nardole and the end of Bill and the end of Clara, once and for all, truly, for all time. Of course, it is a timey-wimey show, and there's always room for picking people up out of time and bringing them back. It is science fiction fantasy and all that kind of stuff. But it really rocked me to my core. And then, as I say, the excitement, the sheer bewilderment and joy of the oncoming regeneration, those final moments spent with Capaldi alone in the TARDIS, speaking to the children who, if the stars aligned in the right way and they were in the right mindset, could hear his true name and could call on it, beckon to him for help. And his resolving through communicating back and forth with the TARDIS, by the way. What the hell? One more lifetime, what could it hurt? And we get that regeneration, we get that, oh, brilliant. And then she's flung out of the TARDIS. You know? So, yeah, it was spectacular. I enjoyed every drip and minute of it. It wasn't as emotional as I thought it was going to be, because I was largely, a large majority of the time, I was intrigued and I was curious and I was just wondering what was going to go on, and I was laughing. But then toward the end, it really did get emotional. And following very closely on from that came the excitement. And revolving around, the backdrop all being that sort of Christmas truce of 1914 and World War I between, the Allied and German forces and everything like that. Just that much more compelling, that much more a Christmas miracle of sorts applied to the story. And it was just great. It was great all around. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you've seen this finale for the 12th Doctor, the Christmas special 2017, Twice Upon a Time. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Love it or hate it, anything goes. I already know certain people are probably going to come on and say, well, these are all the imperfections. This is why I didn't enjoy it. But I hope I'm going to hear from some people who are like, this is why I loved it. This is why it was awesome sauce. This is why I'm so excited about it. And if you haven't already, as per a card I received from my good friend Howard across the pond, I hope you have all had a merry, happy, healthy, safe Christmas, and you didn't forget to adhere to the Dalek rule.
This is a communication from
Celebrate, my friends. Enjoy your life. Enjoy the company around you. Enjoy Doctor Who. Just enjoy it. Just sit back and enjoy it. Let it wash over you with the joy, the sadness, the exquisite, amazing adventures, the twists and turns, the hardships, the losses of companions, and the time and time again, beginning anew and ushering in new eras. And so, yeah, with that, if I don't see you before the next series of Doctor Who begins, because of course I do cover a lot of anime on my channel as well, but if I don't see you, for those only checking in on my impressions on Doctor Who and such like that, hopefully you will have a stunning and brilliant new year. I wish you a happy new year, and I hope you had a happy holiday, a Merry Christmas, or whatever you happen to celebrate. And I just can't wait to see what is next in store for all of us who are Whovians, with the ushering in of the 13th Doctor and a brand new, whole new era of Doctor Who. And so, yeah, otherwise it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well. I'll catch you all later. Peace.